So today we're going to dive into why our biggest, most exciting plans, well, why they so often fail. It's something we've all felt, right? But the solution, it turns out, is this really powerful idea called the architecture of quiet transformation.
I mean, have you ever been there? You know the feeling. It's January 1st, maybe it's your birthday, or just one of those Mondays where you feel unstoppable, and you decide, this is it. This is the year you're going to get in amazing shape, or finally write that book, or learn that language you've always dreamed of. You were just buzzing with energy and excitement. And then, what happens? A few weeks later, poof, it's all gone. You're right back where you started. So frustrating, right?
Okay, so why does this happen over and over again? Well, what if I told you the secret to making real, lasting change has nothing to do with some flashy new productivity hack or some, lightning bolt of inspiration? What if the answer is actually kind of boring? I know, it doesn't sound sexy at all, but just stick with me on this one.
And that leads us perfectly into our first big idea here, which is the myth of excitement. I mean, just think about it for a second. Our culture is absolutely obsessed with it, right? We celebrate the overnight success story, the radical transformation, the highlight reel you see on social media. We're basically trained from day one to believe that change has to be this big, dramatic, super exciting event.
So, what do? We chase the stuff you see on the left, running the marathon, launching the startup, going on some crazy radical diet. We want the big finish. We want the highlight reel. But here's the secret. True, lasting transformation, it's built on all that stuff you see over on the right. The small, consistent things that never ever get a spotlight, like a simple daily walk, waking up at the same time every day, or eating a simple, repeatable meal. It's the stuff that happens in the background that actually makes the difference.
Okay, so if excitement is basically a trap, then where does the real power actually come from? Well, it comes from embracing what we're calling the power of boring. And really, this is all about completely reframing how we even think about personal growth in the first place.
I want you to really let this next quote sink in for a moment. Life in 2026 is built by the small, repetitive things people avoid because they aren't exciting. Wow. I mean, that's it, right? That is the core idea. Real success isn't about what you do on the days you feel motivated and fired up. It's about all those small, almost invisible things you do every single day, especially when you don't feel like it and when nobody's watching.
And this whole process, it actually has a name. It's called quiet transformation. And that name is perfect because it's not loud. It's definitely not for your Instagram feed. It's this slow, steady, almost invisible process of just becoming the person you want to be. And it's all achieved through those understated, consistent daily habits.
So let's just get to the uncomfortable truth, shall we? Our culture celebrates what you could call sporadic intensity. Pulling the all-nighter to cram for a test, or going on a crash diet before a vacation. But that whole approach, it's completely unsustainable. You burn out. Real, lasting change is built on a foundation of quiet consistency. It is way less glamorous, for sure, but trust me, it is infinitely more powerful in the long run.
All right, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But the big question is, how do we actually put this into practice? What does this look like day to day? Well, let's break down 3 foundational and, kind of boring habits that perfectly illustrate this whole philosophy.
Okay, habit number 1, wake up at the exact same time every single day. And yes, I know what you're thinking, that includes weekends. So why is this so important? Because it's not really about the willpower it takes to get out of bed. It's about creating a powerful rhythm in your brain. You're basically setting your body's internal clock, and that thing governs everything: your energy, your hormones, even your mood. It's like the very first domino you push that sets the entire rest of your day up for success.
All right, moving on to habit number 2. Take a walk every day in silence. And let me be super clear about what that means. No podcasts, and I totally see the irony here. No music, no audiobooks, nothing. Just you, your feet on the pavement, and your own thoughts. In our world of constant noise and distraction, doing this is actually a pretty radical act. It creates space. It finally gives your brain a chance to process everything, to connect the dots, and to build a kind of mental clarity and focus that you just can't get when you're constantly consuming content.
And our third foundational habit, eat predictable, simple meals. Now, just stop and think for a second about how much mental energy you burn every single day just asking yourself, what am I going to have for lunch? Or what should I make for dinner tonight? That, my friends, is a textbook example of decision fatigue. It's a real thing. Every single one of those tiny choices you make drains your mental battery.
So by simplifying your meals, maybe eating the same thing for lunch every day, you're eliminating dozens of these little decisions and saving up all that precious brain power for the creative work and the big problems that actually matter.
So let's step back. We've got these 3 small, almost insignificant sounding habits, right? A consistent alarm, a quiet walk, a simple meal. And you might be thinking, really? How can these tiny little actions possibly add up to a completely transformed life? Well, the answer is one of the most powerful forces in the universe, the compounding effect.
But before we get into that, the first thing we have to do is adjust our timeline. Seriously, this is not about changing your entire life by next Tuesday. You got to think long-term. A target like 2026 is used for a reason. We're talking about being an architect for your future self, building something brick by brick over years, not looking for some magic quick fix. And this right here is how that compounding magic actually works. I mean, on its own, a single walk is just a walk, no big deal. But when you do it every single day, you start to build a rhythm. And after a week of showing up, even when you don't want to, you're building real discipline. Then a month of that discipline starts to create momentum. And you stretch that out over years, you are literally brick by boring brick, building a completely new you, one consistent day at a time.
So, look, if there's just one crucial point you take away from our time together, please let it be this. Your future self, that person you want to become, they aren't created in some single, grand, heroic moment. No, that person is being forged right now, today, in these quiet, boring, unglamorous moments where you make the choice to pick consistency over excitement.
So I'll leave you with this one final question to really think about. Forget about running the marathon for now. Put the startup idea on the shelf for a minute. Just ask yourself, what is the one small, quiet, maybe even boring habit that you can commit to starting today to begin building the person you actually want to be in 2026?